Hi, my name is Kendall Stout, and this is our ERP simulation oral presentation.
I'm Destiny Gutierrez.
I'm Michael Nisley.
I'm Brooklyn McCauley.
And I'm Lexi Perez-Ferrari. For our agenda for our presentation, we're going to start with our business strategy, then planning, procurement, production, fulfillment, business analytics, and then finally our conclusions.
Our overall business strategy initially started with a niche cost leadership strategy. Our plan was to keep costs low and offer below average prices, but then after dealing with frequent stockouts and high demand, we decided to raise our prices. And from there, we aimed to shift towards a focused differentiation strategy and position ourselves as a more premium brand as we had to raise our prices to a premium price level. This did help reduce our stockouts and improve our margins. The three products that we were selling were the small strawberry, nut, and raisin.
For our planning strategy, we were able to track our customer engagement throughout the simulation and determine which regions needed what products and better marketing in order to help combat overstock and stockouts. And this helped us plan our volume and pull our focus to get the correct inventory based off of our results. And our key takeaways for this was that the North was our most satisfied and consistent customer base, and we determined that we needed to adjust our forecast and increase our marketing and inventory within the South, as the NPS surveys indicated that we were not reaching satisfaction target markets there. And the West had our highest values, but the weakest sales, indicating that our competitive pressures within the market that made it not our best. And then we were able to prioritize focusing on small products and lower prices until we ended up shifting our focus to a more premium branding. Because demand was weaker in the West, we avoided overproducing by reducing our setup time and sticking with the just-in-time inventory, which made a difference for sure. And within our map, we were able to match production volume to our performance to help maintain our margins and battle the issues that we were having with inventory. And our key takeaways with this was that the North consistently had the highest net value across all products and all rounds. Strawberry and raisins did better in the North and South regions, and strawberry consistently performed the highest among all regions and products, which helped us plan our production priorities. Planning decisions were guided by early round sales data, region demand, and our DC performance. We were able to make adjustments to production volume and fulfillment by monitoring performance in our markets within Tableau. And our key takeaways from this was that our nut product dominated the distribution channel 12. There was weak demand for strawberry and the 12th distribution channel, but it was absolutely one of our highest selling products in DC 14. And we definitely needed to make a channel adaptive strategy in order to maximize our profits and increase our sales.
So for our production strategy, the production process starts with planned order converted to production order. This also includes production volume, production rate, labor efficiency, material usage, and quality control. We started with 96,000 for each project to meet our forecasted demand so that the bulk production helped reduce our production costs. We consistently tracked the demand so that we could adjust quickly when it fluctuated. We started our production capacity slash efficiency at 24,000 units. We stuck with this amount throughout the entire simulation because it was what worked best. Not expanding the capacity prevented us from having to switch. We also held off on any expanding because it already aligned with our cost report. We made an effort to watch demand closely and determine whether we needed to either pull back on investments and make our operations a priority or increase production to meet demands, which we ended up choosing the second option. For our production schedule, we constantly use the demand forecast review to analyze the forecast for the upcoming days, adjusting based on the trends from the previous days. For production planning, we determined batch sizes and production runs based on what was selling out the fastest and what had the highest demand, which is normally our strawberry. After every round, we reviewed production performance, especially output, waste, quality, stockouts, and yield to make necessary adjustments to the schedule or processes. We made sure that raw materials were in stock so that we had the necessary materials to fulfill our orders. And our main goal for daily production was to track and define targets to meet demand without excess. Um, our production efficiency was consistently decent. We had fast order processing with minimal downtime. Our production lines were optimally scheduled towards the end of the simulation so that we avoided wasting time. We struggled a little bit with our setup and changeover times between product batches, but we were able to minimize the struggle at the end by changing the setup time. In order to improve our efficiency, we monitored and optimized material requirements planning runs. We also had made sure to have group production orders by product type to reduce changeover delays, so ordering all the products at the same time. And we also were constantly using the production monitor dashboard to catch inefficiencies early. And then lastly, for our production yield, we had minimal waste or defects during production. Our output was somewhat consistent with our planned production. It was a little struggle at the beginning. We were very on top of our automated production monitoring to catch our issues early. We had struggled at the beginning with fulfilling some production orders due to the missing raw materials. So towards the end of the simulation, we worked together on ensuring proper raw material levels before starting production. And we tried to avoid overproduction that led to excess inventory or stockouts. But unfortunately, we did have a few stockouts due to our strawberry consistently selling out.
So, our overall procurement strategy started with being somewhat cautious in order to control costs in the beginning. We were placing less purchase orders in early rounds. As stockouts occurred, especially in our key ingredients, we decided to increase order frequency starting in round 4. Rather than bulk ordering, we leaned towards smaller, more frequent purchases that helped us avoid overstocking while still improving material availability. Our low inventory valuation and cost of goods sold reflect our strategy, and it ultimately led to more consistent production in the second half of the simulation. So some key takeaways from the purchasing frequency chart. The order frequency increased steadily from round 1 to round 8. Stockouts in early rounds drove more frequent purchasing in rounds 4 through 6. Increased purchase order frequency directly reduced stockouts in round 5 through 8. Packaging materials like small box and small bag were ordered most consistently. Bulk ordering was replaced by smaller, more frequent purchase in later rounds. The highest overall ordering occurred in round 8, peaking at over 140 purchase orders, and oats and nuts were initially underordered, which led to procurement spikes later on. For our days in stock and out of stock, the key takeaways were raisins, oats, and nuts had the highest stockout days. Packaging items remained in stock nearly every round. The stockout frequency dropped after round 4 due to increased order activity, and proactive procurement strategy improved availability and fulfillment.
So this is the fulfillment strategy. As you can see, this is our average regional quantity sold. And so we did 3 regions, north, south, and the west. And this gives us insight into how well we met our customer demand across different regions. And as a guide, we use this as a guide to refine our fulfillment strategy and to see if we could consistently, or if we saw consistently low sales in a region, we could increase marketing efforts or just adjust the stock levels. And we also earlier on, we noticed lower than expected sales in the Midwest region, so we decided to adjust our marketing spend and shift more stock to that region, which led to a positive increase in sales. So this is our total revenue generated by each sim round. So our first round, obviously, we had a lower revenue just because we didn't know what we were expecting it. But then as you can see in round 2 through 6, we went up in revenue by a little bit, and we averaged around 1.5 million for those rounds. And then in the last 2 rounds, 7 and 8, we kind of gained up another 100,000 to like 1.6, 1.7 mil. So we kind of did good on that revenue. And then the total after all rounds, we ended up having 12.4 million. This is our daily quantity sold by DC 12 and 14. And throughout these rounds, we observed fluctuations in the daily quantity sold. And the things we did, some adjustments. We looked at our procurement and our inventory and our production planning to address those fluctuations and hopefully to optimize our sales. And by managing these, we were able to fine tune our fulfillment process and ensuring that each distribution center was hopefully operating at its peak efficiency without overstocking. So this helped maintain a low inventory while we still met customer demand.
Okay. Um, Looking at our round product profitability, price and sales, and market share, evaluating our three main products, Nut was the most profitable product overall, despite having a smaller market share at 19%. It saw strong growth over time and did really well with the lower priced option in the beginning, which drove about 4 million of its sales. And it maintained strong performance even after the prices were increased as well because the demand was strong. And then for Raisin, we saw very weak demand with this product, which led to its lower profitability throughout the sim. Um, it dropped the lowest in round 4 and it rebounded a little bit in round 8, but not as much as we would have. And so it definitely underperformed relevant to its 31% market share. We were hoping that it would do a little bit better when evaluating that in the beginning. Um, and whenever we changed it to a higher price point, that generated very little return. So that did not work very well for that product. For strawberry, this was definitely a good product for us. We saw a lot of consistent growth. It sold the most in round 8 at a very high, reaching almost 500K. It was our most balanced performer in sales and market share, and it responded really well to like the premium pricing that we tried to um, implement in the later rounds with very strong sales, even at the high price of $6. And yeah, overall had the highest total sales.
And I included this slide just to show our gross profit margins for each round. And this is just to show that we had a little bit of consistency and we also had some improvement. But most of the time we had consistency mostly through rounds 2 through 6, and then 7, we had a good increase, about 3%.
So overall, one of our biggest takeaways was how much stockouts really impacted our performance. We ran into them almost every round, and by the time we realized we needed to reduce setup times, it was already costing us a lot. We did try to raise the prices, as mentioned earlier, to slow down demand, but it wasn't enough to offset a lot of the lost sales. If we'd acted on that earlier, we could have managed our inventory better and improved our overall result.
For our production, my biggest takeaway was how having raw materials ready impacted our ability to produce. At first, I thought raw materials wouldn't be a huge problem, but they ended up determining the amount we could order and when. I learned an effective production strategy must balance cost efficiency with supply chain resilience, ensuring materials are available when needed while minimizing excess inventory.
For fulfillment, the biggest takeaway is how important it is to plan and time everything out so that we could avoid delays and stockouts. We had issues with this in the beginning, especially in DC 12. And looking at our region map, it helped us understand demand and better plan our processing or our pricing strategies to limit overstocks and increase our sales.
For planning, the biggest takeaway was the vitality of performance data. It was incredibly difficult to forecast and set our plan according to our business strategy in a way that would benefit us without information to go on. So by decreasing our production time and tracking products across various regions, we were able to respond and adapt accordingly to reduce our stockouts and overproduction and plan accordingly.
My biggest takeaway for procurement was how quickly bad procurement planning could lead to stockouts. In early rounds, we underordered, and that made us lose a lot of potential sales. Once we switched to more frequent ordering, our inventory stabilized and we had a lot smoother production.
As the business analyst, my biggest takeaway when working through the simulation was how effective it was to focus on marketing in regions where products were already performing well. At first, I tried increasing spend in lower performing areas to boost sales in those areas, but I quickly learned that reinforcing strong markets gave us better return and helped maintain momentum. So, overall, thank you very much. And that is the conclusion of our presentation.